Okay, class, today we're going to talk about the homework for Chapter 15. Chapter 15 deals with file streams and object serialization, and your task for this chapter is to create a simple command line interface application, or also known as a shell. So you can see on my screen here that I have the shell application up and running, and I get my standard welcome message, welcome to shell, and I get a prompt. Okay. Now, typically, if you are working on a command line interface and you don't know what commands you are able to execute, almost one command that almost all shells support is the help command. So if I go ahead and type help, you'll see that the shell that you are going to create supports 4 different commands. The help command, which shows the list of commands. The dir command, which lists contents of a directory. The show command, which shows the contents of a file, and the exit command, which exits the shell. Okay, so those are the 4 commands that the shell supports. Okay, the shell should do some basic error checking. So if you type in something which the shell does not understand, like let's say we type the ls command, it should tell you that it is an unknown command, and should also give you the help menu again to give you a hint as to what commands that the shell does support. Okay, now let's take a look at the commands that the shell supports. So we've already seen help. You type in the help command and you get this list of commands that the shell supports. And one of the simple ones to show for demonstration is the exit command. So if I go ahead and exit, you'll see that I get my standard goodbye message and the shell exits. Let's go ahead and rerun my application, and I got my shell again, and I'll just type help in order to refamiliarize myself with the commands. Alright, aside from help and exit, there are 2 additional commands, dir and show. Let's take a look at dir first. Dir is lists the contents of a directory, and you can pass to this this command one parameter, which is the path of the directory that you want to list the contents of. You can see that path is surrounded by opening and closing braces, which means that the path command is actually optional. Okay, so if I execute the dir command and I do not give it a path, the dir command will by default just give you the contents of the present working directory. And if you're running inside of an IDE, the present working directory is almost always the project directory. And you can see that up here at the top, it gives me the fully qualified name of the directory. My directory structure is fairly long. My name is pretty long, so you can see, I'm sorry that it scrolls off the screen a little bit. But let's take a look at the directory contents itself. Directories can contain subdirectories or files. So if you have a subdirectory like build, over here on the left hand side, the first column, it'll show a little d. And the little d shows up for all the directories. So build is a subdirectory, so is mb projects, source, test, and txt. Okay. For files that are in the directory, it'll show the name of the file, and next to the file is the bytes that file takes up on the file system. Okay, so this is a formatted output that has 3 columns: the directory indicator, the size of the file on the file system, and just the name of the file or the subdirectory that is inside of that directory. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the dir command, and this time we're going to pass it a path. Okay. Now on my computer, I just so happen to have the c:\temp directory, and you see that it has 2 files in it: colors.txt and lorem-ipsum.txt. This directory has no subdirectories, so I don't get any D indicators here because there are no subdirectories. Dir should do 2 basic error checking. First, it needs to error check that what I put as a directory listing actually exists. So of course this directory doesn't exist, so I get an error message that says the path does not exist. The other basic error checking that the dir command needs to do is that the path you pass it is actually a directory and not a file. So in this case, I'm going to execute the dir command, and I'm going to pass it the path of a file, not a directory. So if I go ahead and do that, it's going to tell me path is not a directory. Okay, so those are the two basic error checkings and the operations of the dir command. Let's go ahead and execute help again and see what the last command is that we need to look at, and that is the show command. Now, the description of the show command is that it shows the contents of a file. Okay, and you see that the file parameter is not surrounded by opening and closing braces like the path command. This means that the file parameter for the show command is required. So the first basic error checking that show has to do is if I say show and I do not give it the parameter, it's going to tell me that the file parameter is missing. And that it gives me a hint I can execute help to get more information, so I know exactly how to use the show command. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute the show command again, and this time we'll give it the name of a valid file. Okay, so this file exists on the file system, and so it's going to just echo the name of the file on the file system, and then what the show command will do was just open up the file, read all of its contents, and just output each line of the file so that you can see the contents of the file. Okay. In addition to the show command doing an error check to see that the file parameter is actually there, there's a couple additional error checks that the show command needs to do. So if I say show and I say temp, /temp, I should get an error message that path is not a file. Of course, /temp is a directory, and I can't show the contents of a directory. So it should error check and make sure that whatever is passed to it is actually a file and not a directory. The other error checking that the show command should do is that it should check that the file actually does exist. So here it's telling me I passed it a path, which is a valid name for a file on the file system. However, that file does not exist. And so it's telling me that it's doing some error checking and telling me that the path does not exist. Okay. So that is the basic error checking and operations for the show command. Okay. So that covers all 4 commands. I'm going to go ahead and exit since the demonstration is over. Of course, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to text me or to send me an email, and I will help you out as much as I can. All right, thank you very much.